edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this very edition of the program, Nigerian Sports Minister advocates for Africa to host the Commonwealth Games. Winners have emerged at the Tennis Classic at California. Meanwhile, in the world of football, Manchester United into the very crucial stage of the FA Cup in England. Details of this and many more will be yours when we return from the break. Stay with us.
Telling him not to counterpunch.
Welcome back. Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. Michael is here this hour.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to our viewers out there.
Well, we'll start from the local scene, and the Nigerian Sports Minister, John Enong, is of the opinion that Africa is right to host the Commonwealth Games, highlighting the continent's absence as host since the inception of the event. This is quite, I'd say, instructive because, like you mentioned there, since the commencement of the Games, Africa has never hosted the Commonwealth Games, and we are a prominent member of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I think that was a very salient point out there from the Sport Minister, calling on Africa to host the Commonwealth Games. I think for me it's quite unnecessary at this point in time, because Africa, we've actually come a long way. You know, we should be taking part in this kind of a big competition out there. To host it, I think it will add more credibility, you know, to Africa as a continent as well. But then there are other underlying factors as well that we need to consider. Are we truly ripe for this? Because when we are talking about being ripe for it, it's not about the number of years that we'll stay without hosting it, but do we have the facilities in place? Do we have the organizational structure? Do we have what it takes to be able to host the rest of the world? These are some of the things that we must also put into consideration before we talk about hosting you know, the Commonwealth Game. But then I think if you ask me, like I said earlier, Africa truly will come a whole long way to deserving of hosting the Commonwealth Game.
Africa is very deserving of hosting the Commonwealth Games, but you have to ask yourself, do we have the financial muscle? Do you have the facilities? You know, and do we have not just facilities, cognate facilities for some of the games that take place at the Commonwealth Games? Oftentimes we see that Africa, most African countries don't take part in all of the games or sports disciplines that are involved in at the Commonwealth Games. So I think there's a lot more grounds to cover before Africa can host the Commonwealth Games, because, like I mentioned, there's several sports disciplines that have not been covered by most of the African countries that are prominent at the Commonwealth Games. So I think we have to look at how to cover the grounds financially, infrastructure-wise, and like Mike did mention there, the skills of organizing these games over and again. Well, let's stay away from that and quickly go to the African Games, and interesting results coming in from Accra, Ghana. 53 kg African Games Taekwondo champion Chinazum Wozu will not be retaining her gold medal she won at the African Games after losing at the semi-final encounter to Koulibaly of Ivory Coast. You want to think that she should have done better?
Yeah, definitely. I had to watch the clip of that game. I think Koulibaly came to the party. She was able to, take the game to the Nigerian opponent out there. I think for me, lack of concentration as well actually cost us that very one. But then I actually expected us at least to go for the gold in the Taekwondo event, but it wasn't to be. I mean, it's a clear call that indeed we need to come back and be able to prepare very well in the area of Taekwondo. Though it may say, yes, last time out in the All-African game, we were able to prove a point out there, getting the medals, silverware in the Taekwondo event in the last edition of it. So I think this year it was quite a disappointing one, because for me, looking at our last performance, it was a great one. I expected us to build on that confidence on the last performance, but then it wasn't to be, as we lost to Koulibaly. Koulibaly was a better player on the day, and that is what you get when you actually put out your best out there. Definitely must come out top.
Well, let's hope that we can put in our best. And talking about putting in the best, that's exactly what in this team event, because they both won a gold medal.
Yeah, great one there for Uganda and Nigeria. Quite deserving, because they truly worked for this very one. They actually worked themselves, so hard to get to this point, to be able to get to the point they find themselves right now. I think for me, it was a great display from Uganda aspect of view, because Uganda, we don't know them to be a force to be reckoned with when it has to do with this very sport. But then they actually went there and they proved other African countries wrong. Great performance are there from Team Nigeria.
Team Nigeria doing us proud, coming tops in the Scrabble event, and that's looking very good. Quickly, we heard that Kenya slugged it out against Liberia in the semi-finals as well, while Nigeria has been ruled out completely in the female category after 6 wins and, of course, 3 losses, with a cumulative spread of plus 325, while Kenya finished second after 3 wins and 6 losses with a cumulative spread of minus 325.
Yeah, I think it was a great one for Kenya, but for Nigeria, I expected us to do better, looking at what we have on ground and the promises of the team before leaving the shores of Nigeria. Down there, they were actually talking tough, giving us that high hope that indeed they were going to go out there and, at least do us proud. But then, many times you don't actually go ahead of your opponent by talking too tough in the media. When you get to the game proper, you are nowhere to be found. So I think we need to also ask ourselves salient questions and work on some of those lapses so that we can be able to do better in the next outing.
Talking about lapses at the African Games, do you think the cricket team, that's the Yellow Greens, the senior men's team, had some lapses because they actually faltered in their first game of the ongoing 2023 African Games in Ghana, losing 47 runs against Tanzania at the Achimota Cricket Oval? You would think Tanzania should be there for Nigeria's taking.
No. Looking at our preparation before this very one, I actually had a high hope. Don't forget also that we came second in the just concluded a T20 invitational tourney here in the country, that is in Lagos, before heading to this very one. And the players, they were very, very much together in the camp, preparing very well. So that understanding, that cohesion was there among the players as well, heading to the All-African Games. So we thought maybe they were going to carry that form of the just concluded T20, which they took part here, coming second, down to the All-African Games, hoping that they were going to go out there and at least stake a claim for themselves. But then it wasn't to be, as they faltered.
Talking about faltering, that didn't happen completely with the female team, because they actually won a bronze medal, and that's a maiden bronze medal in cricket.
Yeah, very impressive one, winning a maiden bronze medal in cricket. I think for me it was quite encouraging. It tells us that indeed there is hope when it has to do with cricket here in the country. If we actually push further, then we might possibly get there in the next outing.
Well, let's go to football, and still at the African Games, Nigeria's under-20 women's national team, that's the Falconets, will take on Uganda in the semi-final of the women's African event of the African Games. Falconets, no doubt, they are holders of the gold medal, had beaten Morocco in the first match before handing a 4-0 defeat to Senegal in their second group game to qualify for the semi-final. With 6 goals, 6 points in 2 games, it looks like Chris Danjuma's side are ready for the podium.
Definitely, but they should not be, over carried away because of this victory out there, winning 2, scoring 6 goals and getting 6 points. I think for me, it's a morale booster for the team out there. And as a defending champion as well, you expect them to be, firing from all cylinders. But then they should not lower down their guard. They should continue in this high performance heading into the next game, because we don't need to actually underrate our opponent because of the fact that we are favorite as a defending champion. You expect us to be riding very high. And of course, the tactical input of Christopher Danjuma is something that needs to be talked about. We need to also give him credit for what he has done for the girls as well. So I think in our next game, I'm very, very sure if they keep 100% focus and concentration, we'll definitely come out top in that one.
Talking about Nigeria's next game, it is against Uganda, and that match is expected to hold at the Accra Sports Stadium tomorrow. Meanwhile, host Ghana will trade tackles with Group A runners of that Senegal in the second semi-final, tomorrow. With the place in the final at stake, both matches are expected to be very fierce and hotly contested. And do you think Uganda can upset Nigeria tomorrow, while Senegal upset host country Ghana?
No, I do not see Uganda upsetting Nigeria. Like I said, as a defending champion, there is this fear factor that the Nigerian team brings to every opponent out there. And of course, when you talk about women football, Nigeria is a powerhouse in Africa when you talk about women football. So I think I'm giving Nigeria an edge over Uganda. Then Ghana, Senegal, I don't see Ghana defeating Senegal, because looking back at the 3-4 years back right now for Senegal, I think they've actually gone back to the grassroots to start developing a sport generally from the grassroots down to the apex. So I think Senegal will be highly favored for that one against Ghana.
Well, let's talk about Team Nigeria, especially as it concerns the track and field. This is supposed to be an area where Nigeria should be dominating at the African Games ongoing in Accra, Ghana. But it looks like the athletes are beginning to burn the tracks later today. And like I said, it is one area where Nigeria is supposed to hold first. Since the first edition of the competition way back in 1965, Team Nigeria has always been winning a lot of medals, especially from the athletics events.
Yeah, for me, that is our area of strength. Like I will keep saying, is the area that will have a comparative advantage over other African countries. I will must.
The 100 meters, the 400 meters, 800 meters.
Yeah.
Even the hurdles event.
Even the hurdles event as well. We also have quality and depth in that our contingent are there. So I'm very, very hopeful with the likes of Toby Amoshun, Brume, Consider Kanem, to mention but a few. I think the future is very bright when you talk about athletics. So what my concern is that we should be able to take a full advantage of this area of strength of ours, so that we can be able to amass a lot of gold medals coming in from this department, because that will also give us an edge over other countries who do not have the strength when it has to do with athletics. So I'm very, very hopeful, keeping my fingers crossed, hoping that Team Nigeria, led by Toby Amosho and the rest of the team out there, is going to come out in flying colors.
Team Nigeria will be led by, in fact, 50 athletes are representing Nigeria at the athletics event at the ongoing African Games, and we hope that these 50 of them should be able to pull in several gold medals that will propel Nigeria further on the medals table. But talking about medals table reminds me that we had a very strong tussle with Egypt in the second and the third place position. But eventually, after the 8th, it's Nigeria in the second place position, closely by distance behind Egypt.
Yeah, I think it's only Egypt, yeah, very distant. Egypt has racked up about 151 gold medals in all, while Nigeria is about 70-something, which is very, very poor, because looking at the disparity I think is very, very high. But one thing very positive is that we were able to come back into the second position after being disposed by South Africa a few days ago. So I think it's a great one. We need to also fully take advantage of the areas of our strengths if we want to.
How many gold medals do we have now?
27. Yeah,
27. South Africa 25?
Yes, 25. But meanwhile, South Africa has more than silver and bronze medal compared to.
Gold is all that matters.
Yeah, it's gold that matters. So, but then we don't need to, lose guard. We need to keep our foot on the pedal, keep pressing very high in areas of our strength, so that we can be able to give South Africa a large margin, just the way Egypt has given the rest of the countries out there.
Talking about Egypt, they have as many as 90 gold medals so far, and they're still counting. We hope Nigeria can improve on the 27 at the distant second position there, 27 and 90. That's quite a work, if you ask me. But we are entering into an area where we expect Nigeria to throw in, or to rake in more gold medal, which is the athletics event, and we hope that that will be it. More action continuing this hour, especially in the morning hours in Accra, Ghana, Kumasi, and Cape Coast as well, where there is competition, fierce competition at the African Games. Well, like we said, Egypt in the first place position, courtesy of their 90 gold medal. Nigeria in the distance second with 27 gold medals. South Africa with 25 gold medal, presently in the third place position. I will keep you posted with all of the developments as they continue to break on our subsequent news and, of course, sports programs, sports extraordinary, and it promises to be very, very rich. Our eyes are all on the venues where Nigeria is competing. We wish the team Nigeria a very best of competition out there in Ghana. Meanwhile, we will take you to one more story coming in here right now from the world of golf. And world number one, Scotty Scheffler, will become the first man to win back-to-back Players Championship with a superb 8 under par 64 on the Sunday. This is getting interesting. One-stroke victory at the Sawgrass.
Yeah, very, very impressive display out there from Scheffler. I think it was a very fantastic player. I had to take time, last night to actually go through his game. I think it was a world-class.
18 birdies in this one?
Sure, very massive display out there. Total dominance. It was a world-class display out there that it would take the strength of or capacity of any other player to be able to host him out there. I think he's going to actually dominate the golf space for a quite long time if he can actually continue with this fine performance of his, because he has been very, very consistent over the last 6 months right now. Looking at his game, I think for me he's the man of the moment.
Scheffler, number one golfer right now, and winning out there at Sawgrass, very familiar golf course out there. Wish him, do I say, I don't want to look at the bank balance aftermath of winning this one, but quite a lot has been credited to his account after that victory. Scheffler, congratulations. And now we move into boxing. And talking about boxing, the win of Anthony Joshua over Cameroonian Francis Ngannou continue to put him into better light. This time he's climbed on rankings after at the reach amount. He's now better on the ranking table. You think Anthony Joshua can continue to rig more, or gain more grounds from this one?
Definitely, I expect him to continue to improve on the ranking out there. Having also coming back from third position that he finds himself after losing back-to-back against Alexander Usyk. We've seen him at least 4 straight fights now that he has come out of. That has also given him an edge.
We're looking at the names he has won.
Yeah, Jamal Franklin, Otto Wallin, Francis Ngannou. Well, these are not big names in the world of heavyweight boxers out there. Yeah, quite agree. But then we saw what Ngannou did against one of the big heavyweights. Yeah, so you want to also give Joshua credit for that very one. Don't forget, this time Francis Ngannou had to stretch Tyson Fury down to the 10th round, but it took Joshua less than 2 rounds to be able to dismantle Francis Ngannou, clearly giving him an edge, and that is why he has bounced back to the magazine, number 2. I think for me, very, very incredible. But then we look next for his next fight, maybe possibly a big bout between. I wouldn't want him to face Alexander Usyk again, because that could be very, very dangerous. It might also send him back crashing from where he finds himself right now. But then I think Joshua has been doing a very massive job so far. Let's continue to hope that he continue to climb up the ladder. Possibly at the end of it all, he gain back his world number 1 belt. That would be very, very incredible. But for now, I think he has the light shining for him.
Light is shining for Anthony Joshua. We hope he will continue to shine. We hope his next opponent may further bring brighter light to the way of Anthony Joshua. One man who is trying to regain confidence after those double defeats coming from Alexander Usyk. And Usyk now will have to contend with Tyson Fury. And let's see, after month of that bout, who will meet up with Anthony Joshua. But I'm sure Anthony Joshua is very prepared and waiting for them in this one. Let's go to tennis now. And talking about tennis, India Wells is come and gone. Winners have emerged both in the male and the female category. First, let's look at the female category. Mike, world number 1, Iga Swiatek from Poland, very dominant in his victory, her victory over Sakari.
Definitely, total dominance out there, winning Sakari 6-4, 6-0. I think it was a statement of intent out there, becoming the second female, 10th female player to win this twice. I think no other player has won it 3 times. So, but then at her tender age, as her younger, age in the profession, I also expect her to break a record in the next few years coming to become the first woman to win it, 3 times. But then I think it was an impressive display from Iga Swiatek. I actually tipped her to go for that one. But then you also, some people also had doubts considering their age and experience as well. She's just 22 while the opponent is 28. So people were talking about experience and all of that. But I said no, it boils down to hunger and determination. And that is what Iga Swiatek did out there on the court, being very, very, dominant on the court against a very strong opponent. And I think for me, it was an impressive display from Iga Swiatek.
Talking about Iga Swiatek, world number 1, she looks to me like she has rediscovered her form after that Australian Open early round defeat. She lost just only 21 games in 6 matches.
Yeah.
In over this 12-day period, and it looks like she's just firing.
Yeah, for me, I think, the lesson learned at the Australian Open was enough for her, and that is why she went back to her closer to train very hard and also perfect some areas of her game. Because it was quite shocking seeing her exiting the Australian Open in that very fashion at early stage to, someone that would least expect. So for me, I think that got her, very, very angered, and that means you are going to work very hard if you want to change that narrative, and that is what Iga Swiatek has been able to do out there. We've seen her playing 21 games out there. I think looking at the number of wins, 15, I think it's very, very massive for Iga Swiatek. It tells you that whenever you put in your best and you are ready to improve on your game, definitely it's only time, you and time that is going to make the difference out there. And of course, she actually made the difference. She's keeping up to that pace right now, because heading into next major competition out there, she'll be beaming with a whole lot of confidence because of what she has been able to achieve since the last disappointment at the Australian Open. So for me, I think Iga Swiatek is gradually getting back her mojos.
2024, and we've seen Iga Swiatek win 20 games, and she has lost only 2 this year, and powering on all of this, especially at the Indian Wells, where she won Maria Sakkari in a straight set in just over an hour. She has earned $1.1 million US for her effort. Handsome money, you want to say, Michael?
Definitely handsome money, very massive one.
No, maybe beautiful money, not this time, because she's a male. Inferior.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest money spinning, competition in the in tennis world out there, especially in the WTA. Don't forget 1,000 points as well is at stake, despite the money also $1.1 million. I think it was very, very massive. We had to actually dissect this very one, last week's Saturday on our sister station, as when we were talking about the prize money for the Indian Wells and all of that. I think for me it's a massive one, and we had about 2.8% increment of the money compared to what we saw in 2000 in the last edition. So for me, I think she actually smiling home to the banks right now with 1,000 points as well at stake.
1,000 points to boost the chances of the world number 1 in female tennis to continue to dominate in the year 2024. 1,000 points, that's quite a lot of points. And talking about points reminds me how world number 2 has garnered 1,000 points as well. It looks like world number 1 in the male category, Novak Djokovic, now will be threatened that Carlos Alcaraz, the world number 2, has 1,000 points added. In the next few hours, we'll know how the ranking will look like in the female category. In the female category, yes, Iga Swiatek is clearly will retain his number 1 position. Will you say the same of Novak Djokovic after he lost out, I think, at the quarterfinal of this year's championship in the India Wells, and will not be taking part in the next edition of the Miami Open? But before we get to that, let's look at his match last night. The match last night in the final at the Indian Wells. World number 2 Carlos Alcaraz had Daniel Medvedev to contend with, and everybody thought that this was going to be a very big match, but it looks to be easy after all. Straight set win over the Russian.
Yeah, I think for me, I was very, very shocked. You know, I was taken aback looking at the way Carlos Alcaraz was able to dominate, Danny Medvedev out there. Before that game, I actually thought it was going to be a keenly contested encounter between Carlos Alcaraz and Danny Medvedev. But Carlos Alcaraz just made a light work of, Danny Medvedev. I think for me, I was very, very, surprised and shocked looking at his display out there. But then I think looking at, the way Carlos Alcaraz has fallen down, the pecking order of becoming, the new poster boy of the ATP. I think he was able to also improve on his game. Don't forget, in the last 2-3 years now, we're talking about Carlos Alcaraz to be that new kid that is going to give Novak Djokovic a run for his money. But then he was very, very inconsistent rather last year, and that is why we saw him dropping on that high hope and aspiration. But it looks as though he's trying to rekindle his, mojo out there. He has more belief on himself right now, and I think he has been able to work on some of the areas of his game, and that is why we see him, perform the magic he did last night against Danny Medvedev. I think for me it was an impressive outing. Then talking about the point, margin, if he's actually going to close down Novak Djokovic, I do not think, because Novak Djokovic actually had a very large point margin, far ahead of Carlos Alcaraz in this very one. Despite the 1,000 point that Carlos Alcaraz has garnered, I do not see him, dethroning or hosting Novak Djokovic as the world number one. He can only improve on his ranking, but then dethroning Novak Djokovic, I don't think that would be for now.
Well, congratulations to Carlos Alcaraz, 20-year-old Spaniard who will continue to win. This is his second win at the Indian Wells. This is now back-to-back, and you want to say no other person has won it back-to-back since 2016, where we saw Novak Djokovic win it back-to-back at the Indian Wells. And interestingly, it is the same Danny Medvedev that he beat last year to winning this very first at the Indian Wells. So 25, I think he hit as many as 25, winners. And I mean, how many? This is now on forced errors. His first was quite low, and clinically taking out Danny Medvedev, in street sense. I am really shocked, because knowing that revenge was in the offing, you would think that this match will go a long way. But 7-5, 6-1, it ended.
And that is why I said I was taken aback looking at the result, because I was thinking about, Danny Medvedev, coming to take a pound of flesh against Carlos Alcaraz for last, for last time, disappointment. I had hoped that he was going to go back and watch some of the clips of Carlos Alcaraz game and take advantage on some of his weak point out there and be able to give him a very strong run for his money. But then it wasn't to be, as Danny Medvedev just collapsed the way I was actually not expecting him, because for me, I thought Carlos Alcaraz won't get this one over him after last time disappointment. But then that is what it means for you to prepare extra hard against your opponent. And Carlos Alcaraz was ready to make a strong statement out there, and that is why he overcame Danny Medvedev. But for me, I think I was very, very disappointed, like I said.
Well, Carlos Alcaraz, no doubt, winning back-to-back. The first man after Novak Djokovic won it back-to-back, and of course he had triple wins between 2014 and 2016. So maybe we expect Carlos Alcaraz to match up with that Novak Djokovic record of winning 3 times consecutively, maybe at the next edition of the competition. But again, talking about Carlos Alcaraz, the man is just following the footsteps of his protege. Talking about Rafa Nadal. Rafa Nadal, of course, right now was the first to emerge as 5 times winner of the ATP 1000 event. And now we are having to see Carlos Alcaraz as well, emerging as the second player to win 5 or more ATP 1000 events before the age of 21. Something about Carlos Alcaraz and Rafa Nadal. We'll keep you posted on all of it on the subsequent edition of the program. We'll say congratulations to world number 1 in the female category, Iga Swiatek, and of course now world number 2 in the male category, Carlos Alcaraz, who have won the Indian Wells tournament. That we told you about Iga Swiatek winning $1.1 million, aftermath of winning at Indian Wells. Same amount has been credited to the account of Carlos Alcaraz as well for winning the male version of the ATP event at Indian Wells, 1.1 million US dollars. I do not want to convert it to naira so that we don't get this hour. But it's time for us now to take a break. When we return for a break, we'll go to football. And talking about football, the Nigerian Premier League is continuing. Talking about the FA Cup, Manchester United is better than Liverpool for the year 2024. When we return for a break, we'll let you know how all of this pan out.
Telling him not to counterpunch. Telling him not to counterpunch.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
These people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorables,
You human
On the point of order.
Telling him not to counterpunch.
Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and we are into the closing half of the program. And we're starting in football. But just then, remember that we told you that Chevrolet have won the golf tournament for 2024, and beyond that, Team Nigeria at the African Games is in the second place position on the medal table in Ghana after winning as many as 27 gold medals. But it's still a far distance between them and Egypt, leading with 90 gold medal. Meanwhile, let's return back to football now and talk about football. It is match day 26 that has been concluded last night across various centers here in Nigeria. We saw as many as 23 goals scored across 10 centers, and Rivers United scored one of the 23 goals in the encounter at the Adokia Mega Stadium against Hadland FC of Owerri. Former Hadland striker Christian Pierre scored a brace. Shooting Stars secured a 2-0 win over Remo Stars. But first, let's look at the match between Hadland FC and Rivers United. Hadland FC, one of the teams that the weakest team in the league, so to say. But Rivers United could not score more than one goal against them.
Yeah, I think it's quite clear the reason. You know, the Heartland team this season has been a very, very poor team out there, a shadow of themselves, tutored by Christian Obi, who just managed to win his first game after 17 attempts so far this season. I think he had a very poor outing, Christian Obi. Coming to, you know, Rivers United, you expected that Rivers United at the Adoke Amasmaka Stadium to actually pummel, you know, one of the weakest team in the league, talking about Heartland, but then it wasn't to be, as they actually managed, you know, for 1-0 victory over Heartland. For me, I think I was actually not okay, not comfortable with the result. Though 3 points is very, very important, but winning convincingly is actually going to send Shocker, you know, into the wavelength of other teams out there, hoping to come and play here. If you are struggling to win against a struggling team such as Heartland, you know, FC. What if you are playing teams like Lobby Star, Remo Star, Enyimba, some of the big teams in the Nigerian Premier Football League? So for me, I think Rivers United, they just need to up their game, because I am not very, very impressed with their performance in the league so far this season.
No two games are the same, but we hope that Rivers United will improve, especially in the next 14 days or so. They have a strong encounter against defending champions USM Aga in the CAF Confederations Cup. Well, we hope that this will, the coaches will be seeing what they need to do aftermath of that 1-0 win over Heartland. While looking at the March 26 results across Nigeria, at the Lagos Salami Stadium, Shooting Stars beat Remo Stars by 2 goals to nothing. Christian Piagbara, Rivers born, was on the score sheet for Ibadan side.
Yeah, massive display out there from Christian Piagbara and also Shooting Stars, who is also gradually crawling back to, you know, at least finishing very strong on the league this season. This is their 3 straight games so far that they have not lost. I think for me, it's an incredible result for them. It goes a whole long way to tell you that there's a lot of improvement, and indeed, if they can continue in this format, I see them finishing at least averagely on the league at the end of the whole season.
Bayelsa United at the Samson Session Stadium in Yenegua were 2-1 better than Kano Pillars.
Good one for Bayelsa United, though they've actually not been at their best form this season, but then beating one of the traditional teams here in the NPFL at Kano Pillars, I think is a good one, you know, at home. I think this also boosts the confidence and the morale of the player in match day 27.
Well, Sunshine Stars went to Umuahia, played a goalless draw with Abia Warriors. Rangers were 2-1 better than Lobby Stars. Insurance were in a goal-scoring form. Very happy. They scored as many as 4 goals to nothing against Doma United, the highest scoreline at March 26. 4 by Insurance against Doma United. Doma United, are they sliding?
Definitely they are, because Doma United and I could still remember Doma United, Sporting Lagos. These are the 2 teams that started the league like a house on fire. So we thought maybe they were going to contend for the title this season, but quite unfortunate that Doma United have actually slowed down the pace right now. This is not the Doma United that started the league like a house on fire. So I think they have a problem which they need to correct if they truly want to finish very strong this season.
Playing in Lagos, Sporting Lagos beat Kwara United by 2-0. Gombe played a 1-0 draw against Aqua United at Pantami Stadium in Gombe. While Enyimba, playing before an empty stand, overpowered Tornadoes by 3-1. Katsina United played a 2-1 win over Plateau United. You think Enyimba should play without fans for the next 3 games and maybe continue to get the kind of results they got last night?
Yeah, of course. I think it boils down to determination of the players out there. Though the fans also, you will say, they truly help a lot. But looking at the Nigerian Premier Football League, it is only in the northern region where you can actually say that fans truly have, you know, that much influence in a game. Where because they are over there, their fans turn out in their numbers, you know, for a game. But here, I think it's not the same. As most time, we find out that our stadium is very, very scanty. So I do not think that it will affect Enyimba, owing to the fact as well that they're also pursuing for the league. So they want to, you know, focus more on getting the result other than looking at the side of the fans.
Just before we go to Europe, I bring you some exciting results that happened last night in Europe. The controversy as to who succeeds Coach Pesero, the former head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, continues. we are now being told that the Nigerian Football Federation Technical Committee is in favor of a foreign head coach for the Super Eagles, as against the much glamour by most Nigerians that it should be an indigenous coach.
For me, I want to go for an indigenous coach. Looking at what the expatriates in quote they have done to our country, talking about the Super Eagles, I do not think that truly deserve to be appointed again. I think it is high time we give our indigenous coach that opportunity, or to also prove their wealth of experience and mettle out there to the world. Because if you ask me, I think we will truly have 2 or even 3 of an indigenous coaches here who can also, tinker the Super Eagles to become what we want them to be. The likes of, Emmanuel and Munich, I think for me, should be highly favored in this very one, because he has garnered the experience, he has toured around, he's very familiar with the terrain, and also for me, he is very at home with the players as well. The likes of Victor Osimhen, the likes of Samuel Chukwueze, the likes of Taiwo Awoniyi. These are players that have passed under the tutelage of Emmanuel and Munich. So I think for me, I do not see reason why we should be going for a foreign for an expatriate, where we have people here locally that can get the job done.
Well, now quickly we'll go to Europe, and talking about Europe, last night, in fact, the Premiership in England was without be our first stop, and Fulham sent a shocking result across fullers of the game in the Premier League, because they beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-0. I didn't expect this one at all. 3-0, in fact, that match ended. I didn't expect it, Mike.
Yeah, for me, I did not even expect it neither, because I was looking at the Tottenham team, pushing for an European finish, or even possibly the top 4, because they were very close. And for Ange Postecoglou, who also started the league like a house on fire, they won their their first 10 games, they were actually very dominant. At the time, there was a talk that Ange Postecoglou might possibly be on the title hunt this season, but though as the season continued to wear along, they seem to take off their foot off the gas. I think for me, against Fulham, I did not actually expect Fulham to dismantle them 3-0. So for me, it was a quite shocking result and a disappointing one for Tottenham.
Very disappointing for Tottenham Hotspur that are chasing, or they should be chasing the European place, and now dropping 3 points and conceding 3 against less fancied Fulham. Looks a very difficult one to bear. I think that's the most notable Premier League match we saw at the weekend. In England, if you're full of English football, the FA Cup quarter-final was on showcase, and the biggest of the results we got, maybe just before we get to the biggest of the results, Coventry is into the semi-final of this year's FA Cup. Mike, I don't know whether you were expecting it. Coventry.
I wasn't actually expecting it, and the way they did it in a magical fashion, they had to take the 2 minutes of added time to be able to score 2 goals and get the
against Wolverhampton Wanderers. You say a better team than the Coventry, but now it turned out the other way.
And that is what we get to see about the beauty of the game out there. It is quite unpredictable, especially in the English, games out there. You can't actually put your money on one team and bank on them and say, yes, they are going to get you outright victory in this way very well. And that is why we love the English football out there, because it's very competitive. You see lower teams from even third tier out there coming to give, teams in the Premier League a very big run for their money out there. But I think for me, like I said, the shocking aspect of it was the way Wolves actually, capitulated at the dying minute of the game. I said it took less than 2 minutes of added time in the 90 minutes for Coventry City to score 2 goals and get the result in their favor. So for me, I think it's a big congratulations to Coventry, who is also getting to this stage after many years of strife. I think the last time they got to this stage dated back in 1987, and for them it was like winning the final. You saw the celebration and jubilation in the faces of their fans out there yesterday. It was an impressive display from them.
40 years plus, you want to say, for them to come to the semi-final of the FA Cup. Coventry will say congratulations, and hope for the maybe they have to be on their guard. Match is played to the final blast of the whistle. Meanwhile, the biggest of the fixture in the quarter-final stage of the FA Cup was the encounter at Old Trafford between Manchester United and Liverpool FC. Manchester United seemed to show their intention very early in the game, scored first. Liverpool equalized, and of course, Idera went to an equalizer again. Liverpool going ahead, and the match went into extra time at 3-3 with the last kick equalizing for Manchester United, bringing them back into the game, and they continue into the extra time, and what looked again to be the last kick of the match saw Manchester United beat Liverpool, and so Liverpool attempt of winning on 4 fronts this year is now been broken to maybe 3 after that Carabao Cup victory.
Yeah, I think the hope and aspiration of going for the quadruple this season has been ended by Manchester United against Liverpool. I think for me, Liverpool actually gambled in that very game with Jurgen Klopp. You know, they are fighting in all fronts. In the Premier League, they have very important games. Tie on the same point with Arsenal, but goal difference as well. In the Europa, they are also, going very, very fast. So I think for me, they value the Europa and the league more than this FA Cup, and that is why you saw the changes that the club did out there. But then, I think Manchester United, they were more hungrier. Why? Because this is their only, hope of laying hand on a major silverware this season. If they had actually lost that game, then it means that it will be done and dusted for medal hopes and aspiration for Manchester United this season. You saw the way they were disgraced out of the Champions League, playing 6 games, conceding 15 goals, the worst performance in the history of Manchester United in the Champions League. And of course, the league as well, they are nowhere near the league table. So for me, the only way for them to lay hands on any major silverware was the FA Cup, and that is why they came to the party yesterday, dislodging Liverpool. I think for me it's a big win. But going into that match, nobody actually gave Manchester United a chance against a certain Liverpool that is firing from all front. But then a big congratulations to Manchester United.
While you congratulate Manchester United for getting to the semi-final stage of this year's FA Cup in England, let's look at what has happened at the La Liga in Spain. Big congratulations from me to FC Barcelona. They went to Atletico and of course in Madrid and beat Atletico Madrid. It doesn't come easy. Last time they beat them was, I think, January 2023.
Yeah.
And between January 2023 and now, Atletico Madrid have played 25 matches and never lost in Madrid. That has come to an end now, courtesy of FC Barcelona. Is Barcelona winning games because Xavi will be leaving the team at the end of the season?
I actually can't tell, but looking at their performance so far since the day he announced that he was going to step down, from the job at the end of the season, he has actually played about 10 games without losing any. So I think for me, it means the pressure has been relieved of him. Now he has the chance. And
they are unbeaten in 10 games.
Yes, and that is what I'm saying. Since he announced, that he will be stepping down so far, I think for me, this is creating that record at the Wanda Metropolitano against Atletico Madrid is a very big, statement of intent from Barcelona angle out there. And Lewandowski giving 2 assists and scoring one of the goals, very massive and impressive display from them out there. Not forgetting João Felix, who is a loanee, also scoring one of the goals, but then he wasn't able to celebrate because we know, the rancor that happened in the first leg where he actually scored and celebrated. He went, very wrong against him, the Atletico fans and the authority. But then I think in all was an impressive display from Barcelona. Impressive display from FC Barcelona, unbeaten right now in the 10 games in all competition. Talking about Lewandowski, the man you see on your screen there, he's now with 20 goals in the league in Spain. But no matter what they do, they continue to occupy the 3rd place position. Real Madrid continue to power on 8 points gap between them and Atletico Madrid. Yeah, I think the point margin is still very high, and we still have less than... they beat Real Vallecano 2-0. Yeah, great display from Madrid, but the point disparity between them and Barcelona, 8 points, I think is still very much visible. There's a whole lot of points that is at stake. We still have about 9-8 games to go. So if Barcelona can continue to push hard, who says this is football, anything can happen. Well, quickly, Paris Saint-Germain was in action as well. They had good results, and one man should be smiling as well, Kylian Mbappe. Yeah, Kylian Mbappe, I think he's one man who can't stop talking about. The man is scoring goals for fun out there. Hat-trick for him out there. Statement of intent, I think for me, he just wants to leave PSG on a very high note. And talking about actions in the Italian Serie A, FC Napoli had to bench Victor Osimhen. Yeah, and the coach made reference to that when he was quizzed on the reason why he had to drop Victor Osimhen on the bench. He actually cited injury, a slight injury as a result for that. So he wasn't ready to risk him, and that is why he had to keep him on the bench. But then they went down in the first, half, but came back into the game very strong, as they were able to run away with a point.
Well, that's the most we can take this hour. Definitely we'll be back at 6 p.m. Nigerian time for Sports Extraordinary, when our main focus will be on all of the leagues and, of course, exploits in the FA Cup that has entered into the semi-final in England. Don't forget as well that the match day 26 has been played in the Nigerian Professional Football League, and so we will be looking at all of it, and especially with the league standing in Nigeria, in Spain, in England, and of course in the German Bundesliga as well, where Bayern Leverkusen continue to show why they might just win the league this year. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.